Hello everyone, it's Sky, and today we're going to be drawing a frog that is trapped in sewing thread, and you'll be able to see that the frog is suspended in the air from the tree along with the thread itself. Okay, so here I'm starting out with the outline of the tree with a graphite pencil, and I used a reference from a tree outside of my house in my backyard, and it was very great because the branches were really weird and twisty, and it was just very interesting to use. And there were leaves on the tree, and in all honesty, I was too lazy to do that, so I took the trees I just forgot the leaves overall, but I like how it looked without the leaves. I actually think it fit really well for this piece. It just felt like that's what should have happened more. If I wanted to use leaves, I would have used the watercolor, but I just felt like this was the best choice. Okay, so now you see I take out the red pen, and I'm going to use this to outline the tree. Here you can see that I'm outlining the branches, and it felt tedious because I did it before, but when you're doing art, it's good to remember to take your time as you're doing things, or as you're drawing or painting, and remember that it's supposed to be, you're supposed to enjoy your time doing it. That is especially what I learned here. I always find myself feeling so rushed to complete a piece, even though I have all the time in the world to do it, especially me just being a student in high school. I don't really have deadlines to meet for art in particular, and it is coronavirus, so my assignment due dates for homework are a lot more fluid. But I've also been able to explore more of my art during this stressful time. Alright, so I do want to mention that throughout the process of me filming this video, my phone kept ending recordings, and because I need more storage, I'll get that problem fixed for myself so that I can stop dealing with these technical issues. But it's okay, I got a lot of it, as much as I could, of the whole process of me creating this piece. But I started making the thread, and my favorite thing about thread is that when you're drawing lines downward and that thing is supposed to be dangling, you have to remember gravity, right? So you have to make it as parallel to the sides of the paper as possible, because that's how the law of gravity works. Now, I'm not saying I was perfect doing this, but you need to get pretty close in order to make it not noticeable. And I had the thread wrap around the branches, and I put the thread dangling from one of the branches, and yeah, it was really fun. I learned how to do this. I had this idea. I don't remember what I was doing, but someone said needle, and the first thing I thought of was sewing, like because a needle and sewing, and then I was like, okay, and the thread, and I used this for another piece of mine, but I thought that this would fit better for this piece than the original piece that I used it for, because the original one I used it for was for an art assignment, and I feel like I liked it better for this. I also wanted to let you know, okay, so you should wait patiently for the ink to dry, but I was not patient at all. Like I was saying, I was learning how to be patient when doing my art and taking my time to enjoy it. And smudging, of course, occurs when the ink is not dry all the way. But if there is smudging, it's not a problem, because later we'll be using water, and the ink will end up dispersing on the paper anyway, and so you won't be able to tell the difference. You won't be able to see that something was wrong. I also started making this frog, and honestly, I didn't know what I was doing when I was making it, but I was like, well, I know what a frog looks like, right? And I already have this little mouth thing going on with another piece that I've done before, so I was like, okay, I'll just make it look like a frog, but a similar character style. Oh, you can see the jump that happened because my phone cut out again. But now you can see the frog. I bring out the green pen and trace over it. Okay, so now that I've finished tracing the frog, I will be having the string wrap around the frog because that's what it's suspended in the air from. I honestly didn't know what I was going to do for that either, but it looks like it's holding the frog up there, so it's okay. But that's like another amazing thing. When you just do art pieces, you're learning each time you do it. I decided to color the eyes black because I felt like I needed it. And I did it with permanent marker too so that it didn't smear. Like the whole time, the whole time I did pen that I knew would smear if it made contact with water. But for specific things that I didn't want to smear, I used waterproof pens. Alright, so I started getting the green watercolor because I wanted to specifically color the frog green. And the green pen is going to smear and move with the water, but it definitely needed, I knew already that it needed some help because and it just, I feel like it looks nicer with the different green and everything. It looks nice too, like it appears filled. And, you know, I just had to go through again, make sure I covered all the spots of the paper. This is one of my favorite parts of this piece. I then filled in the thread with blue because I felt like it. This part was extremely fun. When I started painting over it, the black of the ink just came alive and dispersed. So you can take into consider how much ink you use for the thread if you don't want it to be darker and you want it to be more visible. And then I take water and I start going over the tree. Just water. You do not need any red watercolor. I might have mentioned earlier in the video that I would be using red watercolor, but I actually did not end up using that because I thought that I was going to be painting a red fish that I had painted before, but I decided I wanted to do something different and I'd do the exact same thing again. So I did a frog, and I went through the whole tree with water and smeared it around and used the red ink, and it was super satisfying and fun to watch it happen. I think it also gives this like a glowy appearance too. I think it's super fun. Because I was impatient earlier, there was some smudging from the green ink, and I was like, okay, well, I definitely don't want that to be there, so I decided to use the green watercolor and some of the green ink that was already there with the water, and do the same thing to around the frog. It also gave it a glowing look, and I just think it helped the piece even more. I also wanted to give it yellow eyes, and I just thought, the contrast is very important. The contrast is not entirely too high, but it is enough to where the piece is nice to look at. I didn't really want the eyes to be green as well as the body, even though it's slightly green, but yeah. If I waited for it to dry all the way, the eyes would have been more yellow. Also, another thing that you can do is that you can retrace parts that you want to be more defined. If you want visible lines to be there, if they got smeared too much, you can totally go ahead and wait for your painting to dry and go back over lines with the pen again without it smearing. Okay, so here I started signing my name because I thought that I was finished with the piece, and then I started realizing something was wrong. I looked at the piece I previously did, and the whole point of it is the needle and the thread, right? So I needed the needle. So I went and I connected the needle from the frog through another branch, and I put it there. I used the black ink that could smear. Now, I didn't really want the needle itself to smear, and if you don't want the needle to smear either, I would suggest that you just use permanent marker for it. Waterproof marker. Waterproof pen. I also noticed that the hole in the needle was gone, so you can go ahead and use a white color pencil to fill in the center of the needle if you want a visible hole, because that little detail kind of bothered me a lot, so you could definitely do that. And here is the first piece that I made. At first I did a print and I really did not like it. I definitely need to practice different types of print more. it was great, but not great, because it doesn't add anything to it. Also for the fish, I did use a needle for the mustache, which I thought was cute. And then as for the frog, again, here's the final piece. I love him. He's super duper cute to me. It was super fun to make, and thank you guys so much for watching.